So he holds it up. He's like, hey, you want to feel it? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, is there a certain way to do it, you know? And so, yeah, that's nice. So I hand it back to him, and he throws it back in the water. I went, well, no, wait a second. That was a big fish. That's the biggest fish I've ever caught in my entire life. And of course, I didn't say that, but I'm in my mind going, wait a second. He goes, that was a big fish. He said, that's by far the biggest that we've caught today. I'm going, yeah. You know, because I'm like envisioning this thing like in my house above a fireplace or I don't know. I don't have any of that stuff, but how cool would it be to have a big old fish so that, you know, other guys come in and think I'm like good at that stuff. So he throws it back in. But this was a big fish. And here's the funny part. A little bit later, I mean, and after the fact, I'm going, what would I do with that? I mean, like what? Like drive back with it in my van? Put it in a cool, I don't know what you do with those things. I don't have money to get it, what do you call it, taxidermied, or is that, I don't know what that is, but stuffed, or do you stuff fish? I don't know. But anyway, so, but then later on in the boat, he goes, if I'd have caught it, I probably would have kept that one. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And I think in his mind, he was just going, you know, what's he going to do with it? You know, put it in a cooler, drive it back in his van. So he just tosses it back in. But there's a big fish. And compared to the other fish, I mean, it was obvious. We had caught a couple of fish he had earlier in the day. I think it's just the fact that he didn't catch it. I really think that's what it was. And I'm like, I'm willing to give you credit for it. I mean, it was your pull, your lure. You did half the tugging. But he said, that was a big fish. Because the two, now he had caught one earlier and said, that was a pretty big fish. But now all of a sudden, this big fish was the big fish. And the one before, didn't quite seem so big after all. Because all of a sudden, there's a bigger fish. Now, don't we have things in our life like that? Like, that's a nice car. And then somebody else pulls in with a nicer one, and you're like, wow, I thought my car was nice. That's a nice car. Or you got people in your life who are really annoying. Then somebody else comes along. Boy, I thought she was annoying, but my goodness, this one is really annoying. So all of a sudden, the standard changes. Anxiety. We'll get back to the fish story. But anxiety, what causes you anxiety? Being around my father-in-law causes me anxiety in the sense that I just want to please him, and it's kind of hard to please him. He's a great guy, but he's got really, really high standards. And it's hard to please him sometimes. And that causes me anxiety. Well, what causes you anxiety? What causes you, and you all know that feeling, right? Because you feel it. Like it's pressing down on your shoulders. It's just totally knotting up your stomach. It's just pounding away at your heart. It's giving you the headache. What causes you anxiety? Well, let's look here. Let's try to understand first. Let's try to understand a little bit what anxiety and worry is. The word anxious, and I had to check with our resident Greek expert who just happened to walk in this morning right after I kind of got these ready. So Pastor Dunn, I was like, how do you pronounce this thing? Okay? The word anxious is from merimnao. Merimnao is the Greek word, and it means to be pulled in different directions. Now think about this. Merimnao, to be pulled in different directions. And isn't that how it feels? Like when you have something in your life that's causing you anxiety, that's causing you worry, you feel just so pulled. I remember, and this is just because it's recent, and when Amy was in the hospital, and I got the kids at home with me, and hoping Amy's okay, and then when Thomas was born, hoping everything was okay with that, I felt so, and I think I remember telling Sharon this, I just feel so pulled. And at that time, I didn't know this Greek word. I just felt pulled. I couldn't figure out, okay, how do I get my arms around this thing? I want to be home. I want to do what's best for my kids. I want to be at the hospital, be a good husband. You know, I got another kid up there. And it literally just made me paralyzed because I didn't know where to go. Because I felt so pulled in all these different directions. But to be pulled in different directions, the word worry in its English origins comes from a word meaning, listen to this, to strangle. To strangle. To worry, to strangle. Now think about that. Think about the physical, the emotional, the mental strangle that happens when we worry, when we have anxiety. And now I'm not just talking about, I'm kind of anxious to be done here so I can go eat. I'm not talking about that anxiety. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the anxiety that just punches you right here. The physical, the emotional, the mental toll. I mean, you get to where you can't think about anything else. You get to where you can't enjoy anything because that thing is right there. Always sitting there on your shoulders. Doesn't go away. And see, here's the thing. See, Satan understands this. Satan knows this. See, Satan understands that the effects of anxiety, he understands those effects. It is the greatest thief of joy. Anxiety is the greatest thief of joy. Think about that. Makes sense, right? If Satan doesn't want us to be joyful about something, let's make sure they're focused on something else. Something different.